Hey everybody, Rob from FLX Bike, and today we're going to put together a brand new Trail F3 model. Just wanted to show you how to put it together, but before we do that, I must remind you that these are performance machines. They have a lot of power, they can go very fast, so it's so important that the assembly is done right, accurately, and everything's in the right place. Otherwise you could get in a lot of trouble. So I don't recommend you assembling it by yourself unless you're 100% confident in your abilities. We really recommend you take it to a professional bike shop, a professional assembler to put it together. If you are confident though to put it together yourself, you can proceed with me. First thing we'll do is just unpackage it. So we'll go through all these. Just pull the top of this box off. And there are staples on here, so be really careful moving around here that you don't cut yourself on a staple. They're very sharp. So it's double boxed just to make sure that the way it arrives at your door is the same way we packaged it at the factory. So open both of these boxes and there you go, the bike is inside. So before we take it out, what we're gonna do is remove all the loose pieces that we can. Got the fenders here. So now we can just pull the bike out. And I recommend having a friend help you with this. Or you can try and muscle it out. And we're just gonna set it down. First thing we'll do is I'm gonna grab some wire snips. You can use scissors or even a razor blade. If you feel like, just start unpackaging everything, cut through the zip ties. Be really careful not to scratch the paint here. So what I'm trying to do here, kind of a big priority in getting this assembled, is I want to ride as soon as I can. So I'm going to get the battery out and then get that charging while I assemble the rest of the bike. So you'll find the keys for the bike on the handlebars themselves, and I'm just going to cut these off here real quick so that I can get the battery out. To remove the battery, insert the key, turn it, and you can just pull it right out. Pretty sweet little battery. So now we can get that charging. I'll just set it to the side right now. Inside the box you'll find a bunch of accessories for the bike and the charger itself. There's also the manual. That's good to read. So this is a new 5-amp charger. That's a quick charger, the fastest charger we've ever had for the trail bike, and it will charge the battery in about 3 or 4 hours. Pretty sweet. So just going to plug this into the wall, and you notice on the charger there's a green light. That means it's either done charging or it's not charging yet. It's not plugged in yet, so once I plug it in you'll see that turn red to indicate that it's charging. So just to protect the battery, I've put this soft stuff down. It is aluminum, so I don't want to scratch it up. And the charging port is right at the front of the battery next to the light here. You can open that up, and then I'm just gonna insert the charger and make sure it all lines up. There is a notch in here. Make sure to line that notch up the correct spot in the battery. There we go. Now you notice the charging light has turned red on the charger, and you can hear the fan activated. That means it's charging. When it's done, this will turn green and the fan will turn off. So now that that's charging, we can get back to the bike. Now you're going to need a few tools to complete the rest of the assembly. Those come in a box with the bike, and you'll see it's this kind of squarish, rectangular looking box. This has got the pedals and some tools to assemble. I'll pull the pedals out and just stick them to the side for now. It's a sweet little tool bag here with all the tools you need to assemble the bike. So now we're just going to stick the handlebars on. It's very simple. All we need to do is remove the 4 bolts from the front of this stem with the 4mm Allen key that comes in the toolbox. So just pull these out. So that's the final bolt there, and put that somewhere nice. Don't lose the bolts. Now we're gonna check these handlebars and make sure they're lined up correctly. So you want the brake handles in front of these handlebars. Make sure
because you can twist these around too much. We don't want too many twists in the line. Make sure this is the straightest configuration on these lines. We've done a bit of cockpit cleanup here, so there are less wires than previous models, which is pretty cool. Now you're going to line this up right in the middle of the stem. So we want this fat chunk. You have to kind of use your eyes to line this up right in the middle, and then you can tilt it. We can make fine adjustments later, but tilt it so that the brakes and everything are at the angle that you like. So I like mine downwards about 30-35 degrees. I'll stick it right there. So I'll just hang on to that and grab the other pieces. So by the way, if you did order the touring package, you'll have an integrated headlight, and now is the time to put that on. If you didn't order the touring package, don't worry about this step, but if you did, it goes right here, and we just stick the bolts right through that light. So line that up, get the bolts in. That's just part of putting this stem on if you got the touring package. The cool thing about having the light mounted up here, previously we mounted it lower down on the bike, is you get a little bit better visibility, so you see more of the road in front of you, cars can see better, and when you turn the handlebars, the light will turn with you. Pretty cool. Before I tighten it all the way, it's still movable, so I'll just adjust that to the way I like it. Alright, so those are nice and tight, and my handlebars are not going anywhere. So now that we got the handlebars on, it's a good time to get the front wheel on. To do that, we'll need to remove the front axle. And if you look closely, this is something I'm really excited about for the F3 model. This is something new. We took it from the Blade. It's a through axle, 15 millimeter instead of a quick release skewer. So this is super thick, super beefy. It's gonna give you a little bit more sturdy ride in front, better steering response, and make you feel a bit more confident at speeds. To take this out, it's so cool. Press this button and just pull it out. It's as simple as that. So we'll do it on both sides here. And check out that. Wow. That is a cool thing. So I'll just set that to the side, and we're going to take the front wheel, which we already took the zip ties off of. This comes with some protectors to stop it from kind of coming through the box or scratching up the bike during shipping. We'll just take those off. Make sure, have a look through that. Make sure that's completely clean. Can you see me? Great. Make sure that's completely clean. There's no like leftover plastic in it. Looks good to me. So what's really important here, when you look at this wheel, there are two spacers on either side of the wheel. And what can happen is for the spacer, this is an aluminum piece, to get caught in the packaging. So make sure you've got one of these on both sides, and if it came out or it's stuck to the packaging, you can just push that back inside. There is a little O-ring, so make sure you get that inside, and that there's one on either side of the wheel. So both are in there, and we can install the wheel. So we'll just take the wheel, and being very careful to line up the disc brake rotor with the disc brake calipers. We'll put that right on, and then we can put the axle in. So be gentle, hold that, and then we'll take this through axle and stick it right through. So what's really important with this axle is to push it all the way through and make sure the teeth engage on the other side of this hole. So right now this is wrong. This is very dangerous. It could come out. I'm going to push it all the way through, and you see these teeth are what we're looking for. So if you don't see the teeth, make sure you push this through all the way. You can twist it a bit to make sure they come out. And now I'm just going to tighten it to engage these teeth, and also at the same time I'm testing the tension on the back here. Right now this is a bit too loose for my taste. It could come off by itself, so I'll just tighten it a little bit more on this nut, and now you see it's really tight, a little bit too tight, so I'll loosen it a little bit more. I want to find it just right. That's a little bit too loose for me, so just a little bit more and we're there. That's about the tension I want. I know it's not going to come off on me. The teeth are engaged, and it's loose enough that I can still use my hand to get it off. That's something good to check out before you ride every time. Make sure this is engaged.
make sure it's the same in the rear as well. These are two important parts of your bike because they hold the wheels on. So if you got the optional throttle with your bike, it would have come in the box, and now is the time to put it on. All you've got to do is take off the left grip, move the brake, and then we'll stick it right here. You could try and stick it on the right, but it's a bit crowded over here with the shifter, so we prefer to have it on the left. You do what you like though. So to remove this grip, we need the 2.5mm Allen key, and just loosen these locks on both ends. So let's see if 3 turns is enough, and bingo, there we go. So grip comes right off. Now you need the, I believe this is a 5mm Allen key to loosen up the brake right here. We're just going to slide that right off. So that's a couple turns, loose enough, and hopefully we've got enough wire. I'm going to unzip this just to get some space. So now we should have plenty of room for this brake to come right off. Cool. So I've got the brake off, and I'll gently set that down next to the wheel. So now we've got a clean handlebar on this side. We'll stick that throttle right on and down. Good. We'll stick that on right where we like it, and we can put the other parts back on in reverse order and then tighten everything up once it's all back on, so we know they're in the right spot. Okay. So we'll go from the outside in. We'll tighten the furthermost outside one, which is the grip. Make sure the FLX logo is pointed up so that everybody knows what bike you're riding. I like to get these pretty tight so that the grips don't move around when I'm riding, taking jumps, doing backflips, things like that. Okay, so the grip is real tight on there. Look at that. Okay, so now we're just going to tighten this grip up and make sure you adjust it to your liking. I like it downwards about 30 degrees and matching the other side. So we set that up earlier. That's about the same angle. And we'll just tighten that sucker on. Now the brakes you want to pay special attention to because it's such an integral part of the safety of the bike. So want to make sure this isn't going to be moving around on me. Same thing with the other one. And that's something to inspect very often, pretty much every time you ride. Make sure your brakes are where they should be, nothing's loose, everything's working properly. Now, tighten that throttle up, and as you can see, there is clearance for everything, so that's sweet. Brakes aren't in the way. Press the throttle. Find the angle you like, that's comfortable. For me, it's about right there. So this one tightens with a 3mm Allen key. After you tighten it, make sure that button is still loose. There are ways where you can install it where it'll put pressure on that and it will get stuck halfway. So you really want to make sure with your throttle that it can return by itself. You don't get stuck with the throttle on. That would not be safe. Also something to check, every once in a while when you ride. So now it's time to install the display. It will have come in a separate bag or box from your bike. So we've got the screws here, the buttons, that's the remote control for the display, and the display itself, which is pretty cool on this generation of bikes. So it's really simple to install. We'll just go one at a time, start with the buttons. So there's a black screw and a silver screw. The black one goes to the buttons and the silver one goes to the display. This clamps forward. I'm gonna stick that kind of next to my throttle here. You want it to be able to be accessible while you're riding, but not in the way of the throttle. So if it's too close, this button will get stuck. I want to leave a little bit of clearance here for the button, and I can still comfortably press all the buttons. Just getting the screws started here, and then we'll make the fine adjustments and tighten it the rest of the way. I'll get it as close as I can without being in the way of the throttle. Power, minus, plus. Yeah, that's good for me. If you didn't get the throttle, don't worry about that clearance. You can put the buttons closer to the grip. As long as they're out of the way of the brakes, you'll be good. So now we come to the display, and the cool thing about this is it's nice and tiny. So folks have mentioned, the display on the F2 bikes. It's a nice color display right here, which is cool. But what happens if I, go down a hill and just stack it and my bike flips over, that could be prone to breaking. So this one's a bit more robust, and it's hidden right here in a corner of the bike that's going to be really hard to cause damage to. So this will be a lot harder to break than older generations. So I'll just stick that where I like it and get that screw started. This is a 2.5 millimeter hex key, by the way. Okay, so I'll place it where I want, and I kind of like it right there, butted up against the stem. That's pretty, looks cool to me. Okay, that's nice and secure. Another cool thing, you still do get a USB port with this display. It's right here, so if you got any onboard GPS or your phone, any device you want to charge, plug it in right here and you're good to go. Be sure to reinsert that rubber plug when you're not using it. So now that the buttons and display are on, we're just going to plug those in. The buttons plug right into the display, so I'll just feed this under here, and if you want, you can also kind of wrap it around here just to neaten the cables a bit. And right under the display, you'll see there's a purple port. We'll just plug that right in there. So we've got the buttons in. Now plugging the display in. It's this wire coming from down here with the green head. So green to green, and we're good. So if you installed the optional throttle, you'll notice by now that there's one wire left, but nothing to plug that into. Not to fear, it's actually hidden right inside here. So the easiest way to get this wire out, it's kind of folded back here, I find, is to take off this plastic bushing, and you may need to pry that up. You can use something plastic like a butter knife or something like that, maybe one of the zip ties from the bike. Just get it in there. You don't want to scratch the bike, so just kind of pry that out, and there we go. And now you'll notice there's this kind of 4-into-1 connector here, and one of the ends that's folded back, there's two ends folded back, one of the ends that's folded back is the throttle, and you'll know that because it will match up to the throttle connection. So we'll just pull on both of these, and there it is. So this one with the cap that you can remove, it's orange. The throttle is also orange, so that's a match. Alright, so what you're going to do is feed that back through this ring if you took the ring off to get it out. And we'll push these wires back in as far as we can get them, as well as that ring. Make it look nice and tidy. So I'll probably run this one similar to the display cable. One wrap here and straight up. If you ever do make any modifications to these cables, make sure you turn the bike all the way left and right to make sure, you know, if it's too tight and you turn to the other side, it could pull the cable out. So I've got enough clearance on both sides. Now I'm just going to clean these wires up with this wire wrap here. Here we go. So wires are clean, and be sure to leave some space for the light to shine through if you did get the optional integrated headlight. So we're almost there. Next thing, we're going to stick the pedals on the bike. So those came in that box with the tools and everything. We'll just rip it open. And what's really important here with the pedals is that they are different threads. One is for the right side of the bike, one is for the left side of the bike. The reason you do that is because when you're spinning, you want them to tighten as they spin and not loosen as they spin. So you'll see there's an R on the right one and an L on the left one. So we'll start with the right one. So we'll just stick that on the pedal. Now, really important to make sure that these threads line up perfectly. It should go in really easily, and you should not have to force it for these first few threads. So this is a really smooth going in. If it's hard and you have to break out a tool immediately, it's probably threaded in wrong, and you could damage the crank, which you have to replace, and the pedal. So definitely take a bit of time and do this one right. So tighten it as far as I can by hand,
and then grab the 15mm wrench that came in the box and just finish cranking that real tight. That's about as tight as I can go by hand, and that should do the trick. Now on the left side, this pedal goes in the opposite direction. So instead of going to the right, we go to the left. So, bit counterintuitive, but you can remember left one, turn it to the left, right one, turn it to the right. So this one again by hand, and then with the tool. Okay, that's the pedals. Now we install the seat, and because this is the bike with the touring package, you'll notice it's a suspension seat post. If you got the normal package, you can disregard this, but there's a bit of travel in there, and to adjust it, there's a little nut inside here. If you loosen that out, it will be softer. If you tighten it to the right, it will be a harder ride. So we'll just take it like that, and notice there is a minimum insertion depth on the seat post. We actually recommend, and it is mandatory for your warranty, to insert it to 5 inches. So 1 inch past that is what you need to insert it to. If you need your seat higher than that, contact us. You can get a longer seat post. There's plenty of places to get those from, but it needs to be at least 5 inches deep in the bike. The reason is it goes a lot faster than a normal bike. There's a lot higher stresses on it, so we want that as deep as possible for the maximum amount of holding force and least possibility of damage to the frame and injury to yourself. So make sure that's in deep. Perfect right away. Make sure the seat's straight, and that's good. That's the seat. So you're almost ready for the touring package. One last piece, that is the fenders. So if you didn't get the touring package, don't worry about this. If you did though, these are the trail fenders. So we've changed the fender style on the F3 Trail. This one has 2 mounting points instead of the previous 1 mounting point. That'll just mean it's a little bit more secure, and it will stay on there better than previous ones have. So the front fender mounts with this kind of a pressure clamp style deal, and you want to make sure that, one, we take this bolt off, because that's where the fender will mount on. So we'll set that to the side, and 2, we're going to pull this screw out. So you can just, to get it out, just do that. So to get this front fender on, it's really simple. There's this kind of a pressure clamp. All we're going to do is wrap this, and we want the washer on the back with the teeth facing outwards, because that's where this will mount. Now we'll just feed that back through and stick this plastic screw inside. Then we'll tighten that up with a flathead screwdriver. So that's in. Now we can tighten that up. Just get it mostly in position now, because we can move it around when we place the fender. You're going to want to do that on both sides. I've already done it on the other side. So now the fender is just going to mount right on those 2 posts. So you see right now it's a little bit high, right? It's like 3 inches off the tire. I didn't make these too tight, so I'll just slide them down a little bit and then retighten them when it's in position. So I'll come down about 1.5 inches on each side, see how it looks. Okay, that looks good to me, so I'll just tighten these on right here. First thing I'll do is use the flathead just to secure these in place, now that I know where I want them. Now we'll just stick the fender on. Make sure it's in the spot you like it, and get the bolt in. You can do one side at a time. Okay, so that fender is not going to move anywhere. Now what you can do to clean that up, grab the scissors and just snip these right off. So now we're on to the back fender, and this one's a bit easier. You'll notice there's this kind of square piece in the box that goes right in the square piece on here. So we'll just untwist this, and there is a spring on each side here. So untwist that, and we'll stick the little mounting piece right here, right in the middle, and then stick this screw through it. Square piece goes in a square hole. There we go. And the other one on the other side with the nut in it. And there is an included tool here, so I'm just going to squeeze the nut up against that bolt and get it to thread with the Allen tool that they included in the kit. That's pretty tight, and it does have notches in it, so you notice it's not going anywhere. You can loosen it up to make adjustments if you want, but let's just check how it fits now. So I'm going to stick this Fender, try and get it under the rack here, and it does have a quick release style clamp on it, so just loosen that up. We'll have to unscrew it a little bit to open it. So there we go. And we'll make some fine adjustments to this afterwards. So I can clamp this bad boy on. Need a bit more clearance here. There we go. And we'll tighten that up a bit and then clamp it on. So with that Allen key, now we'll just tighten this right up. And we can tighten the back as well so that doesn't move anywhere. So now that fender is pretty sturdy on there. Definitely take a little bit of time on here. Make sure the angle is exactly how you like it aesthetically and functionally, that it's not going to be rubbing on anything. This clamp, there is a rubber spacer in here, so you could take that out to get the spacing better. If that fits, I'll even tighten mine just a little bit more. So next we're going to install the phone holder. This is for the touring package only again, so take that off. And you'll find the mounting hardware in there. There's also some instructions in here, but I'll just show you how to do it. So what you're going to want to do is take the rubber cap off of the stem cap, so that just keeps it nice and pretty, and fish into the bag of hardware for the 5mm Allen wrench. So that's that one right there. Okay, so we're just going to loosen this up. We'll be replacing this bolt with a longer one for the phone mount. So take that bolt out. You can leave the cap right on there. And in the hardware bag, you will find a extra long stem bolt and this base of the phone mount. So this is pretty cool how it mounts in here. You're going to stick the bolt through the base and stick that right into the stem, and then we'll just tighten that on there. And find a good position. I like to put it kind of facing backwards and get it real tight. We don't want it so tight that it would break the base, but it does need to be pretty tight. It is one of the pieces that holds the headset together. We've got the phone mount itself. Pull it out of the bag here. There is a foam piece that you can stick on right here. Just pull the backing off, stick it on right here. Definitely make sure your phone will fit with the backing on before you do that. Now, there's a nut on here. It's the lower nut right here. We'll take that off. Insert the bolt part of this through the hole and catch it with the nut on the other side. So you want the smooth side facing that, and we'll just start cranking that on. So now if you look down the bike, you want this positioned in a place where you can still see the display and your phone. So this angle kind of works. If you're going to use this, you can also bring it down like this to still see the display. Or what you can do is loosen up this display and bring it out a little bit more to here, if that makes your view better. Now to insert your phone, all you do is loosen this back nut and then the inside nut to open this up. And you stick your phone right in there. This is a pretty big one, but yeah, it fits. Now to tighten it, we tighten the outside
nut here, hand screw. So that's not moving anywhere. That's the phone mount. Are you getting excited to ride yet? So am I can't wait. But before we do, we really want to check these tires. So these are new tires and you see they're pretty soft. The recommended pressure on this specific tire, it's very important that you look at the actual tire pressure recommended there. This one is 35 to 65 and it's pretty soft, I can tell, front and back. So I'm gonna pump those up. I'm gonna use the FLX Electric pump for mine. So I'll set mine to about 50 PSI. Let's go. Now the tires are pumped up, moment of truth. We can get the battery that we were charging earlier. And as I mentioned, it is a fast charger, so in the time it took me to assemble, maybe different for you because I'm kind of slow, it's fully charged. So we'll insert that into the bike. And this is a really sweet battery. It's more integrated into the down tube. You'll notice that it's now a completely flush down tube. So you saw I clicked it in, the key turn, completely flush down tube, and there's more surface area around the battery, so that means there will be less vibration, less chance of it possibly coming out ever, so really cool. Now we're going to turn it on. To do that, one thing, I hate these plastic protectors, I'm peeling mine right off. Hold the power button on the left side, and you'll feel a little vibration. And it's turned on. So right now I'm in assist level 1. I can press up to level 5. Going 0 miles per hour. It's a trip meter. Whole bunch of info here. So you can cycle through this info by pressing this button on the side. Press the down button to go down and pedal assist. Down to level 0. 0 won't help you. 5 will help you a lot. So we've got the bike on. Before you take it for a ride, as I mentioned before, you wanted to have this assembled by a professional or be completely confident in your own abilities. So please give the bike a once over. Make sure everything on here is tight. We checked the front axle. You'll definitely want to also check the rear axle the same way as you did the front. Make sure all the gears, everything is in place because this has been through a lot of shipping to get to you. Check everything over and then we can take it for a spin. One other thing to keep in mind is that these are new tires. They're a bit slippery when they're new, so the first few times you ride it, keep in mind the traction isn't as high as after you ride it a bit, so be really careful on those sharp turns. When you're ready to go, kick that kickstand and take a ride.